Hello everyone. Welcome back to Weekends with Amit. Last day we were discussing about death. We were discussing about reincarnation and things associated with that. And we got cut off by time. In our limited worldview, we believe that, well, if a conversation is not finished this time, we can always finish it later on. This is what we are doing today. This is the part 2 of physics of the soul. Did you know that oftentimes we think we get cut off by death, that there is nothing beyond it, and we are filled with despair and grief? Then how would it be to learn that no, that's not true? There is something more. We can get cut off by death, but that's not the end of it. And to discuss these subjects, we have Dr. Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisor on our show as usual. I understand this is a very, very interesting subject. Welcome to both of you. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to get right down to the brass tacks, so to speak. So the thing that we left last week is that the evidence of reincarnation, and we got cut off by time. Now, if I may request Dr. Goswami to explain what happens on what evidence is there that we do not really get cut off by death.
Okay. Very, very good question. This evidence for reincarnation, if we have to qualify the theories of reincarnation that quantum physics is giving us as science, then we not only need a successful theory, but also need to have actual data. The whole interest in reincarnation started because such data kept accumulating, and by a very credible researcher, Ian Stevenson at the University of Virginia, who was a psychiatrist of reputation. And his methods were impeccable. He took the lead from reincarnational stories that was circulating about some kid in India or Sri Lanka or Nepal, and he would personally go to interview these kids in the respective countries, and then check their story out. This is the special thing. With scientific ways that he knew very well, all of his life is spent in this kind of research. So these are just major things. I especially remember one case where the girl is saying that, yeah, I was reborn in this village, and all kinds of things. So he went with the girl to that village, and they're roaming around, and they see a house, and the girl says, "That is my house." Well, yeah, okay. So they go in, talk to the owner, and roam around some more. And then all of a sudden the girl says, there's a hidden compartment there. So they tap and whatever and then find it. And the girl says, I remember I put some money there and forgot to ever collect it before I died. And indeed, they opened the safe up and there was money. And this is the best part. The money was from a previous era, different print. And then Ian Stevenson checked, and indeed, that was the right currency. At the time, the girl is saying that she was alive and she was the head of the house. And of course, absolutely, there was no deception. This is done by uh, a team of researchers headed by Ian Stevenson himself, and there never has been any complaint about any kind of deception in his long career in reincarnational research. So this is one type. And then there is another type, which is in past life regression therapy. And this one is very, very interesting. In past life therapy, people have the opportunity of going through several reincarnations of the same person. And then this researcher found that it is very strange that a person does not inherit the karma. You remember the concept of karma, the propensities that we develop all through our incarnations, we bring it into this life. That's called karma. It's the propensities. It's not a soul or an entity that can experience. It's the propensities. If you call the carrier of propensities a name, that's fine, but that name does not bring in the idea that there is an existence with experience in that other realm. There is no experience without this physical realm. Understood? But this what was strange in the data, regression therapy, is that people don't bring all their karma to bear in this life. And quite a few cases piled up like that. So these researchers started calling karma poker karma. Because in poker we play not with 52 cards, but with only 5 or 7 of them. Only a portion of them. So he said we play poker with our karma. Choose only a selected few for this life. And why? But this is exactly what the Vedanta theory says. That was formulated thousands of years ago. It divides karma into 3 types: total accumulated karma, Sanskrit is sanchita karma, and then this life's karma that is accumulating, the current karma, and then they have a peculiar concept called prarabdha karma in Sanskrit, which is that karma you brought to bear in this particular life for a reason. Remember the concept of dharma, the archetype that we want to explore in this life? So the idea was that there is a select number of propensities propensities that we will need for engaging with that archetype. This is the good karma part. There are also some bad karmas that I need to get rid of, again, in connection with that same archetype, the dharma. So there's both good and bad karma fits in, because bad karma is to be gotten rid of in order to go ahead in my purposive program for my life, and the good karma will help me in developing that. Prarabdha karma, very similar to the concept of poker karma. So this is I think it's a very amazing confirmation. There are many other. We won't have the time to discuss them all. There's also brain data. Indeed, you teach a rat something, and the rat's brain, you can take up substantial portions of the brain, and rat will still be able to perform. It's showing that the brain does not have those propensities that you build. Our character, our habit patterns are not in our brain alone, probably not in the brain at all. Instead, as the Vedanta claim, they are akashic memory. Akasha, outside of space, non-local memory. And that's what quantum physics says, non-local memory. So there is direct brain evidence that yes, there is non-local memory. In case you are wondering how rats can memorize, how rats can have experience, because many scientists think that animals can't have experience. No, in quantum science, animals can have experience because they have capacity to feel. You can cognize with feeling, not as good as you can cognize with meaning, but you can cognize with feeling. That's how animals cognize, and everyone who has a pet knows that animals can, of course, cognize and have experience and relate to you, right? So in this way. Now, let me add a little bit about this dharma, because there is a concept, another concept which is very important that we bring. This is the concept of guna, qualities. They too are misinterpreted in the present day because, nobody understands these things anymore. Sanskrit is not spoken in India, so people have lost touch. The interpretation is that they reflect our conditioning or creativity. What is our nature? If you are processing your mind and your feelings with conditioning, the existing knowledge only, then the guna is called tamas, darkness. Tamas. And then you have rajas, the guna of fickleness, but that really is the quality called situational creativity. You have creativity, but within a certain limit. It's a limited variety of creativity suitable only for dealing with a situation, not for a long-term solution. And then there is sattva, pure creativity, which you call fundamental creativity. So all this is important in order to explore your dharma. Now, final piece of data. This is called a crystallization experience. I had it myself, so I know about it very well. There are many documents, however, that many people have that. What happens is that our childhood situation is makes it impossible to get into some things that we plan to get into. It happened to me because I was displaced. I was displaced because India got partitioned, and the place where I grew up in my early childhood was part of another country. And so I had to shift to other country because of mainly the religion, creed, because Hindus would not be treated well in the other country. That was the wisdom at that time. And so my family eventually shifted, but I was the one shifted early because I needed immediate education, and that was not possible in where I was before. So anyway, so I missed some of the growing up that probably would have brought me the Dharma. But then, when I reached the midlife at the age of 37, I was in a crisis, and all of a sudden I had an incident which was clearly crystallization experience. I had an experience where the thought came, intuition came, why do I live this way? I must integrate my life. Now, integration is the exploration of the archetype of wholeness. And that has been my pursuit ever since. And all kinds of gunas that I didn't have before, like I didn't have much sattva, got released almost immediately. Everybody who knows me in the life before and knows me the life after, they always wonder what happened to you, because I was creative but situationally creative. All of a sudden, all this fundamental creativity that I ended up having the good fortune of pursuing, that came only after that experience. As I said, many people have this. This is documented in the creativity research literature. So there's no need to doubt any of these evidences. And we are, in our institution, Quantum Activism Vishalayam, we are studying more and more of this phenomena in order to collect even more data, more convincingly, and therefore reincarnation is really becoming a very full-fledged science, which can give you a lot of hint about what you need to do this life in order to find happiness and intelligence. Okay?
Well, that was really amazing to hear about crystallization experience that you had. And I'm sure that Dr. Ronisor would also like to share her views and add something on what you have said. So, if I may request Dr. Ronisor to express her views on this.
Sure. So, briefly, again, there's really a lot of evidence and in various traditions, right? From Egyptians who believed in the transmigration of souls and the teachings of ancient Greeks, including Pythagoras, Socrates, and Plato, right? Pythagoras claimed that he could remember his previous lives. And then Plato also mentioned several times the idea that being driven by the desire to know by the senses, the pure soul leaves the field of the absolute reality to dress with the physical body. And then, of course, it's in the Kabbalah of the Jewish tradition, lots of references to previous existence. In the book of Zohar, at least one passage which refers to reincarnation can be found. And also in the Islam, followers of the spiritual path of Sufism also consider that the soul is immortal and that the spirit evolves step by step through many realms. If you know about Rumi, these great mystics, he described allegorically the process of spiritual evolution, transmigration of souls, he called it, in his famous poem Mat Navi. I just quoted a bit. Something like, when I was a stone, I died, and I was reborn as a plant. Then I died as a plant, and I was reborn as an animal. I died as an animal, and I was reborn as a man. Why would I still fear that I could lose something by dying? As a man, I will die again, rising as an angel, perfect from head to toe. I will become something bigger than any human imagination. Now, also, I have to say, because I was born in the Christian tradition now, and in spite of some contrary dogmatic assertions, there are also indications that in the first Christian centuries, this doctrine of transmigration of souls, how it was called, was accepted in the West. So, for example, in the 3rd century AD, the Christian scholar Origen, one of the fathers of the early church, he wrote in his work De Principiis that it is natural for souls to receive bodies in accordance with their inclinations and tendencies, and so on. So I will not take your time with evidences, but it's really a lot of evidences. Even in the Bible, you will find such referrals. Okay, in the great Gospel of John, written by the prophet Jacob Lorber as a divinely inspired dictation, especially I would recommend you to read. There is a passage in which Jesus confirms that Elijah was reborn as John the Baptist, and explains so that everyone can understand the concept of resurrection of the body, which is assumed in Christianity through the so-called creed. All right, so, and again, there's a lot more, but because of the time, let me just add a few words about the attitude in front of death, right? And remember last time we were saying that the ones who are fearing death, they're also afraid of life, actually. And the fact that the death is not a denial of life, but a process which is necessary to the evolution. And of course, there are two extreme attitudes in front of death. One is the despair, and one is exaltation. So there are people which are like kind of using this moment of death in like exaltation moment, kind of. And there are also young people which kill themselves because they thought that this is an escape from their depressing life, yeah, which is of course a huge mistake there. And the others which are living permanently, consciously or not, a fear of death, you know, a paralyzing fear of death. Whether we are afraid of that and we refuse to look it in the face, right? Whether we romance it, kind of, we have to understand that that is nor depressing nor exalting, but it's simply a fact of life. Because for the one who has prepared and had spiritual practice consistent, you know, that doesn't come as a defeat, but kind of as a triumph. as a crowning of a most important moment of life. And so we have to be sure that when we are born, we will also die. That's clear, right? And also the reborn, it's again is sure for the one who died. Yeah, if he didn't reach that perfection. Okay, but the paralyzing fear makes the man even more mortal, let's say. So if we don't if we don't beat this fear, little by little, we will not be able to realize truly successes in our life, because most of authentic spiritual states imply a state of transcending the known reality and opening towards the spiritual reality. You can even call it a small death. All of such moments, all those really huge quantum leaps, something of you is dying in order to allow something new to reborn, to be born. It's this new thing which is paralyzing the ego. This is again a kind of death. So for most of the people, it's difficult to meditate over this phenomena of that. Like, for example, in the Tibetan tradition, there is an initiation, a very powerful initiation, Bardo Todol is called, in order to reflect upon their life. So, for example, business people who work over and over, and then they retire, only and then they will notice that they don't know what to do with themselves as they grow old and they approach the death moment, right? So people kind of think that they don't have time to ask themselves these fundamental questions and to really do also spiritual practice and the life with meaning and purpose again, because the problems of daily life, it's like consuming all their energy and time, and actually it's wasting things which are not very important. And on actually meditation, for example, it would help to really structure wisely life and to arrange correctly priorities and become efficient in all that we are doing. All right, and of course this requires effort. It requires all these steps that we speak in creativity, in quantum creativity. It starts with inspiration. It starts with something which is moving a little bit your heart. That's why working in a community, which again has this purposive um, view upon life, is essential. So again, one of the main reasons for which the perspective of that is causing so much sufferance is the fact that we ignore the truth of the impermanence. And if you know about Buddha, he's saying that the only perennial aspect of life is change. Okay, so kind of the only sure thing in life is that everything changes. We have to really accept that. And then I would suggest also to study what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has came with as a research on what's happening on the dying bat. So all these stages of grief, which you will see in the picture below, and which actually they are very much the same with the stages in the spiritual healing or in quantum healing, very advanced stages. So ending with acceptance. Okay, but it's not, maybe we'll take this talking about how grief and such moments can be a gate towards transformation and towards quantum healing in a future subject. Okay, so again, change in our minds, you have to see that equivalates with the loss and suffering, and but it's not always like that. Okay, and we know that. So there wouldn't be a chance to know that if this would happen just once at the end of life. Okay, so if, and again, you may wonder why we don't recall previous existences, previous lives. So it can be also because, I mean, now it's just speculation, of course, but it can be that because if people, we would be able to remember even, I don't know, some, speaking about karma, right? So some all kind of negative things that we may have done in previous lives, we would be very unhappy, and then life would go in the shadow of this very sad rememberings, when Moses. So again, then it's preferable that this existence seem singular in order to extract the maximum as experience out of it. Yeah, but still, let's not forget that the souls which are more evolved may have these rememberings or intuitions from previous existences. And again, we are terrified from the perspective of change and terrified of life as well, because learning to live means also to learn to accept the change, and even this kind of a long sufferance before this dying moment can be the result of previous actions, right? And kind of this, like a purification, let's say. Right. And there is a great importance of this moment of death, and somebody said that we should not be afraid of death, but we should be afraid of a wasted life. So this moment contains actually an exceptional opportunity, to even come out of this reincarnation cycle, if if we are ready for that. And if you study about all these testimonials of people who were very like this near death experiences, everybody's talking about this original white bright light. So if in this crucial moments we are able to recognize this light, which again it's so much about that, and I would really love to talk more about that, but I know the time is limited. But this is a crucial moment, and if we are able to recognize this light, then kind of we did the best that we can do. And again, this moment of that is of major importance in what regards this multiple chances of evolution of our soul. But again, this revelation brought by that is directly proportional with the degree of evolution of the respective person, and also with the degree of becoming familiar with the true nature, yeah, that we have reached during our lifetime. So, of course, everything we do is essential in life, and all the traditions speak about the fact that this human life is an extraordinary gift, and that it has a potential that we can hardly imagine. And if we waste the privilege to transform, which is given by this life, there can pass a very long time before we are receiving another one. All right, Kishano, I think the time is short, so I would like to continue, but
Anyway, it's unfortunately time is short,
no.
so we'll. I just like to tell the audience that subjects like these can be part of a degree program. Most of the time, the degree programs that happen around the world, they are very pedantic, subject oriented, too much of study. But we have a degree program, a master's and PhD degree program in quantum science of health processes. prosperity, and happiness. And quantum physics, quantum science of the soul is a course that we teach. And there are so many other such very interesting subjects that not only give you a very deep insight on how things work, but also give you a new meaning in a new context. So to speak, this whole both these degree programs are designed to encourage you to be more creative in your own field. If you have any questions about the programs or any of the other things that you want to ask us, please feel free to write an email at info@amitgoswami.org, you may also visit our website www.amitgoswami.org, and we will be delighted to answer you. Now, coming back in the present moment, I would ask Dr. Goswami to wrap it up the entire show, and maybe with a little bit of hint on how this soul and reincarnation, rebirth, all this can help a person in their regular life.
Okay. Thank you, Valentina. That was very good. Uh, what can we end this wonderful conversation with? It is to realize the same thing that Valentina said. Uh, Life should be lived. We should not waste our time being afraid of death because it's just a transition. You know, in creative, you have a concept called unconscious processing. Look at death as a long unconscious process towards a purposive life in the next time around. What we can do is always to be prepared, and that preparation means also preparedness for death and the next life. Not fear, but a tremendous amount of anticipation because our life's purpose goes on and on only if we don't forget about it. So remember your purpose, remember the archetypes, live a life of purpose. This is the lesson of physics of the soul of it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And please join us the next week. We'll come up with a very interesting subject, another one. And I'm sure sure that you will be able to learn something out of it. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.